Hey everyone, welcome to an Energetic Arts Open Q&A session. Just let me know that the sound is working correctly. You've got a chat feed on the side here. Feel free to tune into that chat feed anytime. Send in your questions and away we'll go. So just while we're doing that, while we're waiting for other people to tune in to us, just take a moment to breathe, relax, swipe away the rest of the day. Bring yourself into this space and time. Let your mind and body align to a more relaxed, calm, and open state of being. Okay, so I've got a few questions that came in through the chat feed. And they all seem to have this theme, actually. So rather than read out the questions, I'm just going to talk about the direction of where this theme is going. Okay, so basically what we're getting at is people are starting to, on a collective level, people are starting to really tune into themselves. They're starting to meditate, they're starting to eat right, they're doing yoga or some kind of physical activity. They're getting the body stronger, they're getting the heart opened up, and they're tuning in the brain, getting the brain more organized, and their soul is becoming more sensitive and softer to all the energies and frequencies that are going on around them. Now, I'm not a advocate of religious practices or different doctrines or dogmas or systems of that sort of thing. I consider myself an artist, so I'm not into healing anyone or teaching anyone anything, because really, when you start to tune into this, understand how this works and how this works and how it interacts and relates to your environment, you're going to find all the answers that you need. Okay, you're going to tap into this infinite multi-dimensional universe. You're going to realize that your thoughts, feelings, your frequency is everything, and depending on what you tune into is going to depend on what you see in your reality and what direction in these multiple timeline universes, how you navigate through them all. And so there's a few things to be aware of when you start to get into this. When you start to raise your energy and you start to increase the capacity of frequency that is coming through you, that energy, that consciousness that's coming into you, your brain, your body is going to adjust to this new level of being. In other words, if you're like, when I was younger, I was this car enthusiast and I had this, standardized Honda, and of course, you want to get the most out of it. So you start tinkering with it and you start adjusting things and increasing, power levels here and there. But what happens is, as soon as you start to do that, you realize that there'll be a choking point here and there in the components, because they weren't designed for that kind of performance. So, you have to sort of tune into this mindset of becoming like a mechanical engineer, and you start upgrading yourself here and there. And so when you get access to these higher frequencies, these other dimensional reality perspectives, you're going to find that there's little choke points and blockages in the body and in your way of thinking and feeling. And people get all upset and they get stressed out and they get worried about it. like it's something that to be concerned about, but it's not really. It's just something that's par for the course as you unfold into these into this state of being, which is more in line with your true self, without all the restrictions. And so, little things can weird things can start to happen in the body. You can start to get flickering, and little twitches and jolts in the body. And you can have emotional releases. You can get all emotional and burst out crying for no reason. You can get all ecstatic over nothing for no particular reason. You can have laughing fits for no particular reason. Okay, all this stuff starts to happen because the energy starts to get shaken up and starts to move and be released. And so when you start to get into this expanded vision of yourself, this expanded experience of yourself, you're going to have all these, you're going to have all these new experiences. So when we, excuse me. So when we tap into this, you're going to start to be exposed to things that you maybe previously weren't in your realm of acceptance, or weren't in a place where you would expect these things to turn up in your reality. And so it's a bit like, back in 10, 20 years ago, maybe longer, when computers were just starting to evolve, and the capacity for storage and RAM space, computing power, the bandwidth on the internet started to increase to people's homes, and slowly but surely there was more and more that you could do with this computing power, this bandwidth, this capacity of information flowing all around the world. And at first, you just started out. At first, you just started out being like, At first, you just started out going, okay, well, I'm just doing my average thing, and this is how life is, and I'm not really sure what else there is to it, and everything, all this mystical stuff that people talk about, this psychic ability that people talk about, this seems like science fiction, and it's a bit woo-woo, and if I can't see it, then I don't believe it. And so you just go through the motions of living in a third dimensional reality. But then all of a sudden you have this experience where you pierce through the veil, and it's like connecting to the internet for the first time, and someone shows you Google, and someone shows you YouTube, and someone shows you social media, and they're like, oh my God, you mean I can access anything that I want anytime, and I don't have to wait for anyone, and I don't have to wait for a schedule, and I can communicate in all these different ways. And all of a sudden the whole world opens up to you, and you feel like you've got access to everything. All right. And then you get used to that new level, and then you realize there's deeper and deeper layers to it. It unfolds even further and further and further. And so these being exposed to these levels requires a certain maturity, a certain time to acclimate, and a certain skill level to be able to really, I was going to say take advantage of, but that's not really the right word. It's to access these things and to make best use of them. Okay. Now, it's interesting that the words take advantage of came up, because that was in one of the questions. It's like, when you do access these higher states of consciousness, can you be taken advantage of. So the question is, the real origin of the question is, when I'm opened up to this new frequency that I'm not aware of, what else is out there that maybe is tapping into me? What is tapping into me? Because often the experiences I'm having are outside of my conscious control, or my I know that I'm not turning them on myself. Okay. So as you raise your frequency, you get up to these higher states of consciousness. If there is such a thing, then it's not just about positive or negative. It's about capacity and the payloads or the packets of the information. So obviously the payloads get much larger, which means more information can come down to you. But just like we're facing in the world now with IT and security and that sort of thing, there are all these negatives that can come along with it, all the security problems and all those sorts of things. And it's not something you need to really be fearful of or dwell in, because, just like when you connect to certain sites, and if you're, just like a normal person, then you're not really going to necessarily be a target for these types of attackers. They're usually attackers going for big corporations, or, things of where it's going to be worth it for them to take that risk, of being caught, basically. So same sort of thing I feel with when you're talking about energy, is that when you scale up and you're amping your energy up, it automatically gives you this sort of firewall and a buffer situation where certain frequencies can't match with you anyway. But it doesn't necessarily say you can't be influenced by those energies. And so this is the thing that I keep coming back to about energetic arts and being an energetic artist. And it's not really that you're taking on a role of being an energetic artist. It's just a name that we threw out there, like any other name, to describe the kind of activity that we're doing, so we can put a bit more focus on it. But the thing is, it's for you to really just make some distinctions for yourself and discern for yourself what information is true for you and what isn't. And this is, where the whole power of being a researcher needs to come in. You need to really look at what you're studying and look at how it's affecting you, and take, this view of it and sit and check it out and try it out and experiment with it, and not take it on face value. Because, there are so many games running out there, so many programs running out there, that it's really useful for you to give yourself a lot of time to practice these skills. Okay. It's a bit like self-defense for the mind, or energetic security. Okay. Or it's like a spiritual martial art. So what we're doing here is we're not avoiding all these things. We're becoming aware of them. And when we're prepared, we go into those levels and experience what's there for ourselves, whether it's positive, negative, up, down, high vibration, low vibration, whatever it is. You become an explorer of these areas. And when you're in there, there's certain things that become available to you that you can do that normally you wouldn't be able to. Just like back in the metaphor of, when computing was very early on, and, a lot of people weren't connected to the internet, but they had a computer on their desktop so they could do spreadsheets and calendars and stuff like that, Word documents and print out paper, blah, blah, blah. It was a very basic thing back then, but as soon as they connected online, there was a lot more things you can do. Just like when you go from a 3-dimensional perspective to a 5th-dimensional perspective, there are so many more options available to you and so many things you can do. And it's not just like, okay, now that I'm at a 5th-dimensional level, what abilities can I acquire, or what can I, learn how to do that I wasn't able to do before. As soon as you break through that level, everything that's on that level is available to you. It's just a matter of tuning in your skill level to be able to do it and practicing it until it becomes part of you. So with the training that we're doing, this is what we're venturing to do, is we're looking to go into that space, become accustomed to it, acclimatize to it, get ourselves into a state and a position where we're able to deal with a multitude of things. Obviously not everything, because we're talking about an infinite universe beyond this fifth dimension. But then there are certain things that we can focus on, that we can up level with our skill, that typically in a third dimensional perspective was impossible. And things that are like, remote healing, remote viewing, influencing, things like what people are calling telepathy, what people are calling all sorts of, anything that you can imagine out there as being sort of science fiction or supernatural. These things, from a fifth dimensional perspective, are possible. And especially, when we're talking about the internal world of the mind, or on astral levels, or lucid dreaming levels, all these things are possible. And so what we're doing is we're training and attuning the mind, body, energy, frequency into our reality, and we're allowing ourselves to move into all of these different spaces. So with that comes not only, the acquiring of the skill, the maturity of being able to wield the skill properly, and the responsibility of the consequences of using those skills too. So as we get into this, it's not only a good idea to use them in the right way, but it can be quite dangerous for yourself if you use them in the wrong way. Because remember, we're all connected. Everything you do to another, you're doing to yourself. It's a reflection of yourself. So if you're having a problem with something outside of you, it's very important to tune back in and see what's going on there, and rather than,